We got two of the best teams in the NHL going at it tonight at the Garden. It's Rangers Golden Knights. So let's talk about the matchup and all things Blueshirts with Jay Lazzy, Jonny Lazarus, host for the NHL and the Daily Faceoff. You know, we had to bring in the UMass guys for this one. Shout out to UMass Athletics. Thanks for coming in. When we talk about this Rangers team, as you know, #1 in the Met. But a lot of people are saying that they're slumping. They've only won 3 out of the last 10. You were at morning skate this morning. Take us through the vibes of practice, and can we get any news and updates from this morning?
Well, there's certainly a lot of news and updates from this morning. It felt like a routine, optional morning skate. I do want to repeat, it was an optional morning skate. So the whole team didn't practice this morning. There was just 3 guys out there on the ice: Filip Chytil, Jake Leschyshyn, and Zach Jones. So you'd think nothing would really go wrong, but at the end of morning skate, Filip Chytil went down, and it looked very, very bad. The building got completely somber. I was on the far side when it originally happened, and you saw Peter Laviolette standing there watching. His face went a little bit dry as we saw Chytil on the ice for about what felt like 5 to 7 minutes. They were doing a one-on-one board drill, and Chytil obviously has had some injuries in the past few months and was in Czechia for a couple weeks before returning to the States this past week. And Chytil was down. He was helped off the ice by Leschyshyn and by Jones, along with some training staff members, and the whole building just felt very eerie. So it was very sad to see. We don't have any word from the Rangers on what the injury might be. It looked like he was, trying to not put pressure on his left leg as he was getting off the ice, but with the history around his head, it could be also a head injury. So I don't want to speculate on what it was. The Rangers, I'm sure, will come out with a definite conclusion of what it is. Sorry, it took me a second to find that. At the end of tonight's game, because there won't be any media availability before the game. So we'll have to wait and see until after the game.
Well, the fact that he was back on the ice out there practicing, it looked like he was going to be back after that absence. If he's out for another extended period of time, how do they recover from that?
Well, they've been playing without Filip Chytil now since November 2nd, and he's a big part of their lineup. He was originally slotted in as the second-line center on this lineup, but Vincent Trocheck has now taken that over since Chytil originally went down. But everything was trending in a positive direction. Chytil was here. He went back home to train with the people he trains with over the summer, and you saw pictures and videos of him working out. It looked like everything was going great. And then he comes back here, he joins the team, he's on the ice with the team, he looks fine out there. He looked fine today. He was stick handling, looked normal, looked like he was getting back to his old self. And then this happens, and it's obviously going to be a pretty big hiccup or even a setback as to his progression. So we're just going to have to wait and see what the Rangers decide to do with Filip Chytil. But I imagine, because this is a personal injury where it affects your everyday life.
Absolutely.
So there's no rush. I think the biggest concern is Filip Chytil's health just for his everyday life. I think hockey always comes second with an injury like this. So it's a waiting game for the Rangers, and I'm going to say Filip Chytil, his health is the most important thing with everything going on right now.
And his mental health as well. I mean, we're athletes. When you're away from the team, you're away from the game that you love for an extended period of time, you come back, something like this happens. Mentally, who knows what's going through his head right now? And this is a young kid with a bright future. We're talking off camera. I love the kid line. I love Chytil. Finally learned how to pronounce his name without messing it up. So I'm hoping he's all right in the long run, not only health-wise, physically, but mental health-wise. We talked about that slump. I mentioned it. 3 wins, last 10 games, but they're still #1 in the Met. What has caused this slump, and what's Laviolette and the players saying about the why? And is the why fixable?
Well, here's the concern. It's not necessarily a slump anymore. You can call it a slump when you lose 4 games in a row, but over the last 20, the Rangers have been playing essentially .500 hockey. So this might be just who they are, and I think that's the issue right now, is finding out what this Rangers team's identity is. Where in the first 20 games of the season, the New York Rangers were a team that defended well, and they provided offense, and they were able to score goals. The last 20 games or so, they're not defending well, they're struggling to score goals, and they're not getting timely saves. So right now, that's what the issue is are these things fixable, or is this who we are? And the things that are fixable are just playing tighter in the D zone, are making that routine save that you should see Igor or Jonathan Quick making. So yes, it's not a huge issue, but there definitely should be some concern because it's not a 5-game window anymore. This has been going on for way too long.
Well, you talked about Igor Shesterkin. He's been lights out in years past, but he's kind of struggled this year. He's not the Igor of again, years past. 901 save percentage. Is it time for Jonathan Quick to be goaltender 1? Do you make that switch up? Educate me, man, because when the goalie thing is in hockey is kind of weird to me. So I understand who Igor is and what he means to this team and what he's been able to do, but when you struggle, is it time for Laviolette to kind of make that change and that adjustment?
I don't think there's any need to panic right now as far as goalies go. Igor Shesterkin is still your number one guy. He's going to be the number one guy. Jonathan Quick has had a phenomenal season when they've needed him, but Igor Shesterkin, he's the all-star representative. He's the guy you want backboning you in a playoff series. I mean, he's shown it in the playoffs time and time again, how good he can be when the games matter most. But the issue right now at hand is that the Rangers were leaving him out to dry a lot earlier in the year, and you couldn't really put the blame on Igor Shesterkin because you play against teams like the Vancouver Canucks and the Carolina Hurricanes that have pretty firepower offenses. They're going to score goals 9 times out of 10 when they have a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-2 or a breakaway. But we've gotten used to seeing Igor Shesterkin make those saves in the past. So it's kind of this weird little perspective thing where you see Igor Shesterkin be a little bit inhuman, and now he's coming back down to human level. So it's a weird little thing there, but the Rangers do need to do a better job, at defending in front of him. The only game I will say where I was disappointed with Igor Shesterkin's performance was the Rangers game against the Golden Knights last week when they went into Vegas, because they go down 2-0 after the first period. If he makes 2 of those saves, which are 2 goals he probably shouldn't have allowed, the whole energy in the game shifts, and the Rangers could come out on top in that game where they played really well in the opening 15 minutes. So I think for me, it takes a couple good games in a row to get back on track, and Shesterkin has a good opportunity here before the All-Star break.
Well, we're going to talk about that rematch in a little bit, but we got a little bit of time before the March 8th trade deadline. A little bit of time, literally weeks away. But I just wanted to ask you, number one in the Met, they slumping right now, but obviously this team is going to get back on track. Are there any players out there that Chris Drury in the front office could be eyeing to bring in to add more firepower to this team?
Well, I think a lot of that changes with today. Now everything went down because Filip Chytil, with his progression as of late, it looked like he was going to come back in and fulfill that third-line center role, which the Rangers really need without him. But now, with everything that happened in morning skate, I think the third-line center position is the most important one to fill. And there's a lot of names out there like Elias Lindholm, Sean Monahan that the Rangers can target. But there's also that first-line right wing spot that the Rangers have had an issue with lately as well. Kaapo Kakko started the year there, struggled a little bit, then got hurt. Blake Wheeler took over that position. He struggled a bit, although he did produce points. It was clear that he's not necessarily up to speed with Chris Kreider and Mika Zibanejad, but he's actually back in that position tonight. So that'll be interesting to see how he works with those two again. But Kakko and Wheeler have had this little back and forth in the first-line spot, so maybe the Rangers go after a first-line right winger like a guy, Frank Petrano in Anaheim, who we saw play here a couple years ago on their playoff run to the Eastern Conference Final. But I'd say the most important position for the Rangers to fill right now, with what we saw from Filip Chytil today, is that third-line center position.
That's going to be something interesting to keep an eye on. Now, let's talk about tonight. This is why we brought you into the studio. Vegas whooped up on the Blueshirts out in Sin City last week, but they're at the Garden tonight. So what's your keys to the game for the Blueshirts to skate away with a win?
Well, the Rangers haven't been able to put teams away. They went up 2-0 against the San Jose Sharks the other night and couldn't build on that lead. The Sharks come back and end up winning in overtime. So if the Rangers have a strong start to tonight's game and test Adin Hill, who's only playing his second game back from injury. Adin Hill was phenomenal against the Islanders the other night in Long Island. But the Rangers have to just compile shots on Hill. They have to get traffic to the net, create second and third opportunities, because they've been struggling to score themselves. The Rangers have only had more than 2 goals in a game just once in their last 4 games. So they need to do all the simple things like getting pucks on net, getting traffic to the net, and taking away Adin Hill's eyes. Also, the power play hasn't been at its best lately, too. So if the Rangers do get a 5-on-4 opportunity, they got to make the most of it, because that's when you do put teams away.
Put the puck in the net. That's all
simple.
You had to say. That's simple. Yeah. It's funny you say that and you break it down like how this team's kind of been struggling to score, but Adin Hill's been giving it up. Some sports books have the over-under set as high as 7 goals. I'm going to put it at 5.5 right now. Would you take the over and under on that? Inquiring minds want to know. Let me call him a bookie.
The 5.5 line is always interesting to me because you see a lot more scoring now in today's NHL, where the line is typically usually at 6.5. But because these are 2 really strong goalies, at least on paper, in Adin Hill and Igor Shesterkin, you think it's going to be a lower scoring game, especially with the Rangers' struggles to score as of late. But the Vegas Golden Knights haven't really had many issues scoring goals. We just saw them put up 5 in New Jersey on Monday night, then 3 on Long Island against the Islanders Tuesday night. I would lean toward the over in this game with how the goalies have been trending as of late, not necessarily their reputation or their what am I thinking of?
Reputation?
Reputation prior. Thank you. I can't find words today.
UMass education,
I can't find words today. Their
UMass.
reputation previously. So I would lean toward the over in this game. I think it'll be a back-and-forth offensive game.
All right, let's look ahead a little bit. Again, I've said it about 10 times already. They're number 1 in the Met. The Hurricanes are only 2 points behind them, but they're hot. 7-2-1 in the last 10. Early prediction to who gets that #1 seed out of the Metropolitan Division.
It's Carolinas. It's the Hurricanes.
Really?
Yeah. The Hurricanes had a really tough start to the season, but one of their issues is scoring goals, and they've been doing a lot of that lately. The Hurricanes defend so well. They're probably the best team in the NHL, just defending and playing a 200-foot game. They've had a little bit of goaltending issues this season, which has hindered them, but they're playing a complete game right now, and they're only progressing in the positive direction. They haven't had many injury issues as well, so knock on wood for the Hurricanes, but they've won this division now many years in a row previously, and I see them continuing to do that this year. It's theirs to take, I believe.
You threw me off on that one. Interesting. All right, you definitely threw me off on that one. All right, lastly, the Stadium Series jerseys just dropped. We want to get your thoughts on these sweaters. I got a whole segment name, Get Snazzy with Lazzy. Let's take a look at these jerseys, uniforms, whatever people want to call them, and let's rate these things. We'll get them up on the board now, and you tell me which ones you like, which ones you don't like, and which ones you would actually buy for a Christmas gift. Let's just say.
Well, I think it's a little bit past Christmas.
It's a little past Christmas. Why is it the first holiday that popped up in my head?
I have no idea. Valentine's Day gift, maybe.
I don't know if I'm getting somebody a hockey jersey for Valentine's Day, but it's worth a try. It's worth a try.
But I would say my favorite, and this is obviously a little bit biased, but the Rangers is my favorite.
Oh, go figure.
I'd say the Flyers is my second favorite, then the Islanders, and then the Devils. We talked about it prior to recording. I like the clean, crisp white jersey. It's my favorite. I think the NHL should go back to wearing white jerseys on home ice. You see the road away colorful jerseys when teams come to town. I think that's a cool aspect as well, instead of just the plain whites. But to me, the Rangers one, the color code is just, you can't beat red, white, and blue.
Bro,
right?
the Owls.
You can't beat the red, white, and blue, though.
Okay,
You're a Giants
America.
guy. Come on.
What does that have to do with
It's
what
red,
I
white,
like?
and blue.
Like, I don't wear Giants jerseys. That'll make my cheekbones pop. Oh, man. But, yeah, I really love those Owls jerseys, man. But it's going to be a great time with that Stadium Series. I can't wait for that. We definitely either got to get you in studio again or check you out at MetLife Stadium. On my stomping grounds, out there. Tell the people they can find you, Johnny.
I'm all over Twitter, or as you call it now, X, just JLazzy23. It's where you can find me. I'll also plug my new morning show called Morning Cup of Hockey on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel every Monday through Thursday at 9 a.m. We talk a lot of hockey with a ton of different guests like players, coaches, media members, you name it. So tune in every Monday to Thursday at 9 a.m.
UMass!